The voice vein thing, that would have been,
It would have been crazy. It's going to be amazing, though. Ladies and gentlemen, it's December 24th. I hope your day is absolutely beautiful. I hope you're hanging with your family. Hope the birds are singing. Hope the sun is shining. Today, we're joined by Trevor Colhoun, incredible individual who reached the edge of a broken behavioral health system and chose not to complain, but to rebuild it from the inside out. What began as a single state effort in Louisiana has grown into a verified national network, nearly 100,000 providers across all 50 states. Not another platform layered on top of dysfunction, but an operating system designed to remove it, dissolving administrative drag, delivering free, high-quality education, enabling human-led care, navigation, and now moving directly into claims and reimbursement. This isn't disruption for its own sake. It's clinical-led, it's patient-centered, and it's quietly dismantling the gatekeeping structures that have turned care into bureaucracy. Today, Trevor pulls back the curtain on what's actually breaking in mental health, who's absorbing the hidden costs, and why TPN.health is becoming the connective tissue the entire ecosystem is about to depend on. Trevor, thanks so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm awesome. Merry Christmas Eve to you, and thanks for having the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you here. You know, a while back, I started looking through LinkedIn and started checking out your page, and I'm like, whoa, look at what's going on here. This changes everything. And I thought maybe I could, even though I gave you a bit of an introduction there, I was hopeful that you could maybe reintroduce a little bit about how you got started, like what the major goal is, and what you're up to this year.
Incidentally, did you write? Where did you pull that introduction? Because that was really good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What I do is I look through different websites. I'll check your LinkedIn page. I'll check the TPN site. Then I'll go to the Instagram. I'll look at all of them, and then I'll take all of the, you know, this and that, and I'll put it into a couple AI tools and find what works, mishmash it a little bit until I get something I like, and then
that was fantastic. It was really awesome. So
I'll send it over to you.
We're done here. This is good. You've explained it well. So I'm sorry. I just had to say that. So you want to kind of talk about how it started, or what?
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's jump into what motivated you to start making this thing happen.
It was kind of the rubber ball, right? I mean, you didn't really know what you had with the rubber ball until you started bouncing it. And I had a family member go through behavioral health right alongside and helping them through the process. And I had a unique background in the financial markets, which isn't sexy and isn't fun at all, and I hated it. But that was my background. But entering with that thought in terms of, what really happens in the financial markets is information, transparency, data connection, right? And that's how people transact and see markets and price markets and see value. And as I went with this individual through the behavioral health journey, I realized, whoa, there is none of that. And, going to facilities and things of that nature, checking out of facilities and being like, okay, we're going to send them back home. Mr. Colhoun, where do you want them to go? And I'm thinking like, how are you asking me, who knows nothing about behavior health, and where's the connectivity and the connected fiber of you understanding this is the behavioral journey clinically of this person? Like, I broke a leg, right? And I go into the hospital system, and I get, I see maybe I start with my orthopedic, or maybe I start with my primary care doc, and they assess me, and I go down this clinical path. I might get a second opinion, but I innately know that process. And I think when we started TPN, we started asking kind of these different questions. We didn't ask how to make money. We didn't ask, how do I serve the ultimate patient client. We asked, like, well, what is going on? Like, what is systematically wrong here? And I think the root of this whole thing, which is not solving the problem, but it's almost identifying, is anybody who walks into behavioral health or needs behavioral health services, which is all of us,
Yep.
in some semblance of
Yep.
scale, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't understand the value proposition of behavior health, meaning I don't understand who I need to see and then how long I need to see that person until I get peace of whatever issue I think I have. And if I don't know that, right? If I don't know those two things, then I don't know cost. Okay. And for some reason, and I kind of understand it, but some reason behavior health and mental health and with the providers, capitalism and money have been a dirty word,
Yeah.
because it's attached to all the screwing around that's gone on around with insurance. And I get it. But all of the parties that are involved have the same issue, right? They've been unable to demonstrate value proposition, right? So if I'm a provider and I say, come see me, and I say, oh, you're going to come once a week, every other week, and we're going to talk about, the unfortunate loss of your wife, right? And the issues that you're going through, that and the anger and the abandonment and the loneliness that you have. And we'll see how it goes, right? But if I'm entering in that and I'm like, well, look, I make $100,000 a year. I'm not sure my insurance is going to cover this. I don't know how long I need to go into this until I feel recovery. I don't see and hold where this is going. I don't understand the value prop of this. So I might not enter behavioral health. Okay. Then I'm an insurance company, right? And I have to, my job, and you step back 20,000 feet, what an insurance company is, they're an investment house. And all they're doing is they say, I'm taking your money, and my best client is the one that's the healthiest. And so right off the bat, you guys are aligned, meaning I'm going to pay you, and I'm going to make sure that you're as healthy as you can be, because the healthy patient is a good patient, is a good client for me, because you're not pulling out of my dollars. So they want to, this is a foreign concept to behavior health, and like they want you to be very healthy, because you being very healthy is not going to the emergency room, you not going to do all this stuff, right? But
Right.
what the insurance companies can't quantify is, how do I walk you through the behavior health world? How do I what is you know you might have depression and anger issues, and is that DBT skills that you have to go through, or internal family systems that you have to go through, and and what does that cost, and what is the percentage of these 1,000 lives at this demographic, at this diagnostic, that get through this, and in 10 sessions they're at some semblance of peace, and they're not going to need more of this stuff, right? And those are the issues that happen in behavior health on all sides of this transaction, that kill it from the beginning, because there isn't a distinguished value proposition that occurs, right? And so that is a massive elephant in the room. That is
Yeah.
like, and I think hearing that, people innately, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and they're like, okay, then what? Right? It's like, okay, the problem. Now what the hell are you going to do about it? And I think as we started to understand that, um, it kind of went back to the roots of, well, what makes a marketplace? What makes information? What makes decisions, right? And it really turned us to thinking about, well, the most powerful person in this whole thing, and the one that has all the answers, and the one is the same as the physical. It's the primary care doc, right? Or it's the doctor system that talk to each other and let them drive the process, right? Because if we look at behavior right now, who's driving the process? Idiots like me and you, right? Who don't
Right.
know a lot
Right.
about behavior health. We're like, oh, well, I have a drinking problem, and this place has sweet, palm trees and a beach, and the rooms look nice, and I'm going there. Well, you know what? That's not, that's clinical match care. Okay. That's not how it should be driven, right? And then, that's why we have all these issues that we've had in the substance abuse market and other things, because you have Google, and you have all these things driving this market to push these people into areas that aren't a fit for them, right? But
Yeah.
you're trying to turn a buck, and so it's no fault of anybody's involved at all. It's no fault, right? Of course it's going to go that way. Of course you're going to have unintended negative consequences that occur, because you're pushing bodies around and sending them flight tickets to go to Florida and, you know, all these systems and issues that have happened. Of course that's going to happen, right? I get that. You know, it's no fault. It's you're in a system that's not run and doesn't have appropriate, you know, I guess clinical professionals driving it. And so that's really where we came out about TPN. We were just asking different questions. And what that led us to was, well, if the clinicians drive this, if the social workers and psychologists and counselors and, you know, addiction counselors drive this market and, you know, interventionists and, you know, all the things, what do we do? How do we get them together? And what came about was, well, we need to build a almost a LinkedIn marketplace for them to come into and actually drive these decisions and actually see the market. Be like, I'm in where I'm today in Palm Springs, right? I need to see the marketplace and understand, okay, who's in Orange County who does DBT skills and who does this, because I have a patient that I've done the diagnostic work, and we have 40, 50 years of clinical research to do this stuff, right? To do clinical diagnostic work and tests and things like that, and find out, okay, so, you know, this might be the best process. This person fits, this person takes their insurance, you know, this person is available, cultural competency or care alliance, right? This person actually understands, you know, let's talk about me and not anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm a white male, I'm 48. Okay. I grew up in Connecticut and I live in New Orleans, and, you know, I'm in California, so I'm all over the place in America and decently educated. And I need to be connected with someone who understands that demographic and understands my cultural competency, and I need a care alliance. Like, how do we get all that information at scale? So a clinician, so we built in 5 quarters. Took us 5 quarters to build what looks and feels like a LinkedIn for the B2B space. And you know, you know what happened when we launched it? Nothing. Nobody cared. We launched in March of 2020, and we're like, you know, and like, yeah, everybody's gonna go, and this is, you know, people are gonna want this, and no, I mean, crickets. Nobody cared. Nobody understood. Kind of like, well, oh, you're like Psychology Today, or, you know, you're trying to do this, that, the other, and of course I'm like, no, we're this and we're that, and we're gonna do this, and then people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, and I don't care. So that was how this whole thing came about.
Man, what a surreal moment that must have been. All this time, all this planning, these ideas, thinking about this is going to be an incredible game changer.
Yeah.
What happens then, man? Like, take me through what happens at that point in time. Like, you know, you build it, they're supposed to come, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I thought we were Field of Dreams. I was like, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love us. And you know, we're solving their problems. And I think a couple of things, and I, you know, maybe hopefully you have a lot of, you know, clinical and licensed providers on, but they don't trust anybody, rightly so. I mean, they've been sold a bag of crap over and over again. Snake oil salesman. I'm going to do this. I'm going to promise this. And then, you know, you know, you're just trying to, whatever it would be. Right. And so they're highly skeptical. And this is a fantastic universe and fascinating universe, because this is a highly educated universe. Highly, like, these are doctors, right? They've done the 3,000 hours of clinical work. You know, they have a master's, some have a doctorate. I mean, these are highly sophisticated, highly educated people that are massively underpaid. And so they don't trust folks. They've been screwed. They've been screwed by insurance because of the things, the structural issues I talked about. You know, they most of them, you know, went to school to learn how to do these therapies. They're all very passionate about it, rightly so. And as I am, you know, you're dealing with a lot of folks have gone through these therapeutic journeys themselves and
Yep.
come through that and seen the value of that and the quality they've had in their life, and they want to give that to the rest. So it's a wonderful journey, but they also, what they didn't learn is how to run a business, right? How to run a practice, how to do these things. And there are a few in there that can, but and without that knowledge, they've been taken advantage of by a lot of things. We can get into that stuff later about what's happening in the marketplace where they're just getting screwed.
Yeah.
But when we launched it, it was COVID came about, and we had a pretty facile, strong tech team. And one of the things we did in the beginning to grow providers is we'd go to conferences and we'd get a booth and we'd say, come join TPN. And we'd probably catch about 20 to 25% of the clinical market that was at the conference. It cost us a lot of money to do it, and it wasn't scalable. And so we keep thinking about, like, well, how do we solve this? How do we get this? And then we started realizing when COVID came about, we're like, wait a second, we know tech and we know what to do here. We could build continuing education on top of this, and we can actually put out very high level, and it maps really closely with what we're doing, because not only are we bringing the clinician, but we train the clinicians. And so we started building a learning management system for continuing education. And fast forward today, we are pretty big in that market. And we last 2 weeks ago, in 1 week, we did 72 continuing education workshops. And we work with, the thesis around it was, we don't, again, and I'll repeat this again, I don't know anything about what I've learned in healthcare and behavioral health. I've learned in the last 6 years. And then I guess prior, just being a human being, but we stepped in this not knowing anything and how this really works. So we kind of built it how we think it should work. And we said, look, because we don't know what this world needs, we started partnering with organizations. We start partnering with massive associations, leaders in facility leaders in the country that were doing great work, universities, other organizations that wanted to do continuing education to connect with clinicians, and tell them either about their program, tell them about what's going on, and train them. And that's been going on. That process has been going on for a while. We just massively digitized it. And so these groups will come on and they'll do a continuing education workshop, and 5 to 25 to 3,000 people, clinicians will come on, and they'll train them and provide them ethics or clinical training, or what have you, so they can maintain their standing. And then what really developed out of that for us is this philosophy for TPN is, we want to be the digital home for providers to maintain their professional status, get their professional status, or elevate their professional status, whether it's credentialing at a higher level, training at a higher level, getting the best of the best what's going on. So I might be in San Diego and I'm getting trained by folks in New York that I would never be able to get to.
Yeah.
And then was also very important to us, and always will be, is that this is financially frictionless for the most part to the provider, meaning all the things you'll see, we hear all the time is like, I don't think anybody understands how we make money. And we'll talk about that, because that's important for everybody to understand, is because we don't make money off the clinicians, who are number one user. When you think about companies like Uber or Lyft and things like that, they clearly define who their customer is, as we do too. So Lyft, their customer is the driver, okay, and Uber, their customer is the passenger. We, of all the customers that we have, whether they're health plans, state governments, facilities, our biggest customer is the provider, period. And making sure that they are getting the things they need and simplifying their life of efficiency to advance, thrive, all those things, that's where we focus.
Man, it's such time. I want to bring in a few of the people we got on stage over
Yeah.
here. Shout out to Juliet over there. Juliet is such an awesome person. Thank you for being here and hanging out with us. She says, great idea. Care Alliance. I hear you. A lot of I found my people. Business Alliance. Absolutely. Then I got to bring in my friend Jessie Monreal over here. Jessie, shout out to Jessie. Go check her out, doing some amazing things in addiction. She says, yep, burned out by all the massive structures in healthcare, not appreciated, told what to implement by people who have no patient contact, measured by metrics that are irrelevant. It's very hard to trust anyone coming in claiming to be on our side. Trevor, what would you tell someone like Jessie?
Yeah, I hear you. And, I wouldn't either. And I wouldn't, we don't ask anybody for trust at all. And we don't ask anybody for money. We just say, try it out. And really the try it out is where you want to dip your toes in. And the simplest one for people where the journey start with clinicians and TPN is really our continuing education. It's live, it's on demand. We've got a ton of it, and it's super high quality and it's free. And then where the journey goes is where we took it this year and will grow significantly next year, is really because we have this digital relationship with providers and we understand they're credentialed, they're licensed, we understand their demographics, we understand their cultural competency, because they share this information. We can actually do 2-3 really significant things. One, we're directly connected with the payer, right? So there's no go between with the ultimate person that has the book on their member lives. So we will go work with a third-party administrator that might manage 100,000 lives for, name the company, the Chick-fil-A. Okay. And Chick-fil-A, which is beautiful, cares about their employees. Okay. And they want a healthy employee, and they care that not only, Sally, who's in the, C-suite, and Sally has kids that they're taking care of, and those kids are taken care of. And so what we do is we've built technology that all of those families have a text number. Okay. And they can text in, and in 7 minutes, they're talking to a licensed care counselor. Okay. This is a counselor that's licensed, and they're a care navigator, and they take that life and they diagnose that life, and they get the personality match, so we can start to think about that care alliance, but also that diagnostic match. Through that process, we actually directly contract the providers on our network, and we pay them. And people still don't believe this. We pay them at their cash rate, and we don't take any money from them at all. Okay. The value that we create at TPN. Yeah. I mean, this is very cool.
Awesome.
And change the market. And we'll talk about what's going on in the market and how clinicians are getting screwed. Is on their contracted piece of paper, that's what they get. And every time they ask me, it's like, well, are you taking a $20 from this? No, we're not taking it. That's your contracted rate. Okay. You put your claim through us, we will pay you in less than 30 days back on services you get. Not only the services you do, we will provide you with that referral. You can take that referral or not. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. All these other services are like, you have to take this referral if you're not. Like, why? What is this indentured work, right? and then you can cancel the contract, not do this work. We don't. These are your autonomy and your choices. But we are doing matches. That's pretty cool, because these are folks that you actually were clinically trained to do. Now, isn't that a novel idea? Like, I was actually trained to do IFS, and I'm IFS level 2, and I wanted to work with folks that actually need this services, and that's what I'm going to focus. Heart surgeons do not fix effing legs. They don't, right? So that's really, because we're so large in terms of our reach of providers, we're able to kind of break down that process. And you hear a lot about ghost networks, right? And we can get into this issue. Like another reason why insurance is failing so much is because what they do is they thought differently about this market. They said, well, I'm going to contract you as a provider. Now you're contracted. Do you know what happens after that? Nothing. The relationship's over. I've got a piece of paper. You're contracted. It's on you to tell me if you're available or have a place to tell you're available or where you're located. And that information goes cold within 3 months, right? And so they have all these ghost networks. They're getting sued left and right. Carillon, Elevance, Centene. We know it very well because we talk to these folks, and they don't have the provider networks. They're basically, here's the dirty secret. Health insurance companies are selling you a service they don't have. They're selling you, I have a provider network in the behavioral space, and you can pay this money to me, and I'm going to get you in-network providers. But they don't have anybody, and everybody on this call knows it because they go with their family, their daughter, their brother, whatever it is, and they go to try to find somebody, and they get a phone tree that they got to call down to find out. And all these people are like, I don't take this insurance. I'm not available. Like, that's crap. And they're selling this to folks, and they know it very well. And they don't have an alternative to do it. And that's really where we come in, as we have digitized this process and taken away a lot of the noise. So when you think of TPN, we kind of can handle all of it. The credentialing, the paneling, a lot of it is on our piece of paper. So you're not, we are a PPO network. So it's quite cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I got a bunch of people chiming in over here from the Discord. The first one comes to us from Desiree. She says, where's the behavioral health system, especially around referrals, networks, and admin, most dishonest right now about how broken it actually is?
How in trouble do we want to get?
As much as we can.
All right. I mean, we've been very quiet about this for a while, but we're 92,000 providers, and we grow 4,000 to 5,000 a month. There's nobody that grows as fast as we do, because we are, and you probably see it and hear it in my voice. Like, I don't effing care. We are here for the provider, and we did this not to make money in the beginning. We did this passionately to solve a problem, and now that we've solved the problem, the world's going to freak out because the existing systems that are occurring, they're not even systems. They're literally not even systems. Like, why do you think that behavioral health providers take cash pay, and the whole world's like, they only take cash pay? Like, if I was a provider, I have no idea how to get reimbursed. And if I do reimburse, I've got to think of a world of like this CPT code and this dotted I and this and that going on. And then I've got to wait 90 days, 180 days to find out to get that money. So they've got two problems, right? One problem is they've complicated the entire process of these CPT, but there's only like 20 CPT codes in behavioral health. First of all, it's not a lot. And then they haven't really built an efficient system to handle these claims on the health plan process, right? And so they not only do they not have a digital connection with their providers, they don't pay their providers enough. So health plan systems, how they solve it, they're like, well, we're just going to increase reimbursement. Do you know who doesn't care about that? Someone who's making $100,000 and $150,000. If they're making $150,000, they don't want to wait 90 days for more money. They want to wait. They would wait, 20 days for less money, right? And we're telling people, it's like, first of all, there's two things you don't have to do. You don't have to get paid less money, and you don't have to pay some service to take 30% of your money that's yours, and you can get paid faster. And this has all been, behavior health has been lost for naught. And I'll get to the referral question in a second, but I just want to make this point. Behavioral health has been lost for this whole process, because if you think about structurally what's going on in behavioral health and physical health has tremendous amount of CapEx and a tremendous amount of liability risk. So what happens with that is you have to build huge networks that can facilitate that, because you have equipment needs, right? I've got to do CT scans and this test and that blood, all that stuff, right? It doesn't happen in behavioral health. So you don't need to be attached to a huge network, like hospital or anything of that nature, or a huge practice or any of that nature, right? And so that's how historically behavioral health has been like, I'm hanging up a shingle, I have an office and maybe I'll have a couple partners. But that's it. So that's why this whole industry has been siloed and bifurcated and analog forever. And now, we're coming in and saying, look, we can actually do this at scale, and we don't have to do it off the backs of providers and take money off them. And I can name names if you want to, but these referral networks and what's going on is they've really thought of either, tight networks geographically. They've thought of, um, trying to make a marketplace where it's like, if I'm going to build this, I can get the providers and contract them, go out, call them, panel them, all that stuff. But then I've got to get the supply of lives, right, to kind of facilitate this transaction. And the lives, what they care about, especially as you go and scale, they want to make sure you have enough providers that you can handle this smoke, that you can handle the fact of like, hey, I'm Disney. I have 300,000 lives. I'm in Connecticut. I'm in Texas. I'm in California and Florida. Okay. And I think North Carolina is mainly where their lives are. Like, how are you going to handle all that? And I want to use one vendor. And so they're like, okay, we're just going to start building this network and kind of fit to that because I want that shiny star of Disney. Right. And because of the digital structure of these systems, they've missed the ball, and they basically said, and this is how it goes. Provider, I'm getting paid, meaning whatever that group is, $120 for a CPT code, and you're going to get paid $90 for a 60-minute psychotherapy session, or $70. Sometimes $50, right? If you go further down the quality chain, and that's not okay.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think it illuminates one of the many issues a lot of people have been having in here. In fact, Juliet comes in and she says that as a personal payer, I would rather cash pay for people whose training and expertise fit my personal need. It's expensive, but I pay for quality and fit. It's a good point. She also comes in. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it goes to value-based care, right?
Right.
And quality. And you mentioned, is it Juliet who said it?
Correct.
Is that, yeah. So what, this goes back to, the collective of behavioral health has to look at themselves who's shunned capitalism. They've completely looked at it as a dirty word and at their detriment. And not have a system to kind of handle this. And it's the collective. It's nobody's individual. It's just kind of how that system was evolved. And what if I were to tell you that, one, in a network such of ours, you could get paid more, but we all know, if there's providers on this call, you all know that we can actually track outcomes now. And we've had the clinical research for 40 years to know that. And how we've built this system is we connect with our lives via app. I mean, I'm sorry, quite the opposite, by SMS, not app. Okay. So we can actually, as the relationship begins and they text in, say, look, I'm a school teacher in San Antonio. I think I had a breakdown. I just need to talk to somebody and figure this out. Right. That's where that journey might begin. And then you start to go through the diagnostic process, you go through the personality score. But that doesn't stop there, right? Because now we can actually track the outcomes of that life as it goes in, because we're the entire process of the payer understanding what therapeutic modalities are coming through to that journey. Our care navigators are matching and tracking. They're third party agnostic to the process. So they're not going to like massive facility detox center, and that detox says, well, this person has to stay here now for 30 more days. I'm like, well, that's not your call. And we might find, thanks for the detox work, we stabilize this person, and we're going with the IOP option here at this separate facility. Getting a little off track, but the point is, we can start to track those lives and outcomes at massive scale, so thousands and thousands of lives, and then understand the actual value prop of each therapist, understanding, and also agnostic to them. So they're not controlling. So I might be Juliet, who does DBT skills. And if Juliet gets a woman in her 30s to 45 who suffers from anxiety and depression and, things of that, and 70% of those people after 6 months are improving, are feeling better about their lives, and that, like, do you know who's going to pay for that and pay more? The payer and the employer and the person who's doing that. And so then we can start moving into value proposition and understanding, like, not only are you going to get paid, the rate that we started off, we're going to start paying you more because you're in more demand because you're doing good work. What does that also sound like? That sounds like the physical health market, where you have, like, this guy's a good doctor. Everybody wants to see him. He does good work because we can measure it and see it. We're not measuring anything in behavioral health, nothing. And especially not at some scale to understand what is good and what is not good. And we're able to do this. And the beauty of this is, do you know who's going to pay for all of this tracking? Is the payer, because they want to know. They want to know what is going on. What are they paying for? What are their outcomes? They want to know that I don't get surprise bills because, John couldn't get a therapist and John had to go to the emergency room because he thought I had a heart attack when he's just having a panic attack and freaking out. But if you can capture John before, level set him, and get him through behavioral health, the costs of John go way down. And that's what they care about, right? And what you care about as a therapist is you get John, and you're actually getting him to the right place and getting him to stability and onto thriving.
Yeah, the word alignment comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
It's, who would have thought that alignment and getting both parties exactly what they need is the answer.
Yeah. But here's the
yeah,
you know what? It's okay to make money for
of
these
course.
therapists, and they want to, but
And they should.
they should be paid just like doctors, right?
Yep.
Like, there's going to be specialists that come out of this in 5-10 years, I predict, that are going to be making, and there are some of this in the industry, but there's going to be folks, because you know what they're doing? My peace is just as valuable as my ability to walk. It's just as valuable. So why is there disparaging cost structure? My ability to have a healthy heart is just as valuable as me as having a peaceful state in my mind, and having internal gratitude and love for myself.
Yeah, it's well said. Who else? We have Thomas coming over here. Thomas coming in from Virginia. He says, you've got almost 100,000 verified providers now. When does that network hit the point where payers basically have to route everything through TPN and the whole power flip happens? Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for that. And
it's big fans out there already.
It's slowly happening. And it's, I think life's a beautiful thing because we don't control it. We just thank it for a blessing. And I think one of the blessings that's happened to us with TPN is we've wanted to work with health plans for a while. We've knocked on their doors and said, we can do this for you. And you know what they've done to us every time? They're like, you know what? They're like, well, no, we know what's going on. And that's changing significantly.
Yeah.
In terms of their understanding of the value of what we can do on a cost basis. Because this is like, it's economics here. They want nonprofits have lived and breathed and crushed behavior health, in my opinion, because it's the well-intended. And who doesn't care about the well-intended? Someone has to keep the goddamn lights on. It's like, look, I want to do that, and that's great. But give me structure where I can actually do good work, be valued for it, and get paid for it. And that's what are developing. And so when you think about that on the health plans, he's right, and he's kind of in our playbook right now in terms of we want to be the digital infrastructure of behavioral health. We want to be at that place where, when you're a provider and you're thinking about, you're like, I'm on TPN, I can build my practice, I can elevate myself, I can connect, I can have patients that come in that don't fit, and I can find a fit for them. I can feel ethically comfortable about that and rewarded about doing this process. There's transparency. There's controls and rails in terms of the credentialing around this. I know who's who and credentialed and what they're doing, and they're licensed. We see all in terms of what, bless you. My girlfriend's in the room.
Yeah,
We
bless
see
you.
we see all that what a clinician's going through in terms of where they are in terms of their hours of a year. So that's great for a clinician that might work for a big practice or a big facility. They might work for Acadia or Meadows, and Meadows wants to see, like, where are my clinicians in this thing, because they need to be licensed, and what things do they want to know and learn, and this. And someone I saw mentioned about burnout, like,
Yeah.
burnout is about, I think, in our perspective, it's like not being valued and cared for at your facility, right?
Yep.
Not getting the education I need, the services I need, the attention I need to care for the folks that are coming through those doors. And we can help a lot with that in terms of the trainings specifically that someone needs, because most people that are in behavioral health, they're freaking fantastic, beautiful human beings that just want to help people, and they
Yep.
want the tools to help people.
Yeah, without a doubt. They see it every single day. They live it in their lives. They see it in their families. And beyond that, they're working in an environment where it's life or death for some of these people. They see the destruction of
Oh,
family.
it's heartbreaking. I mean,
Yeah.
think about the folks that are working in emergency rooms, right? And we're getting calls from heads of ER docs all the time, and then I go and reach out, and I'm about to name names at some point. I'm not doing that
Yeah.
today, but I reach out to the hospitals and say, look, your emergency docs are reaching out because they want to use our services, and they're like, they won't even call us back. But the emergency docs are doing, like, I need to move this patient out of our emergency room
Yep.
and find care. And think about that person who is a human being. I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, okay? And I have someone that I'm looking at that's next door in a room that is having a panic attack, and I am not equipped to handle that. And I've got someone who's coding over here that I've got to deal with. And you, hospital and executive group, are not paying attention at all to this issue, or even helping me with the solution to move this patient out of the hospital into some place that works. And we can help in spades in that. And still, no one has kind of said, like, yeah, we'll go do that. That's frustrating to me.
Yeah, especially if you're someone in line in the emergency room and you need to get in there with your
Yeah,
emergency, right?
right. Because you're clogging up yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally. Who else do we got over here? I have another one coming in from Neil. He says he's talking about dissolving administrative burdens. He says, you're dissolving administrative burdens nobody else could touch. When do clinicians finally look back and say TPN frees them? I think I read that right.
Yeah. When do we look back and
when he I think the question is a little worded a little odd. He says maybe you could speak on the idea of dissolving administrative burdens that no one else is willing to touch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the administrative burdens that are going to be dissolved and are being dissolved are just a derivative of the activity of a digital marketplace, right? And
Yeah.
I'll say it this way, which is outside of TPN, but when I started my career professionally, I am not a healthcare. I started at Bear Stearns in 1999, and I would take a trade ticket into what it was called the Cage at 245 Park, and we'd make a trade, right? So think about that for a second.
Okay.
Like, This is someone who's executing a trade, and 30 seconds later, it's getting to the cage, and then they're typing it and executing it, and it's done. And so, do you know what? It doesn't exist anymore. That job I did, all the people in the cage, all that administrative
Right.
stuff, and now it's actually the person who is thinking about the process, what needs to happen, how to execute, and presses a button. And so that's what happens in a digital market, is a lot of this administrative burden
Yep.
starts to melt away. And I think when you look at us, we're a real-time live network where because we have engagement and because we're bringing so much digital utility, that therapists are using it, and we're understanding where they are, what their needs are, and what goes on. I think it's important to understand is we don't sell data. We've built a whole system where we're not Meta. We're not selling data. We're not Google. We're not selling data. What we sell is connectivity and access that the provider decides. They can decide, I want a referral. I want to be on this network. I want to be served up continue education, right? But we're not selling that to anybody outside of TPN. That's all within the ecosystem, and they decide to engage with how they're, and that's an important thing.
Yeah.
Because I could go out and I could be like, "Here,
Of
Humana,
course. That's a
here's
lot
all
of
these."
valuable information in there.
Yeah, like, no, that's a short game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who else do we got over here? The next question comes in. It says, if you burned it all down, what are the absolute non-negotiables for TPN?
Burned all TPN down, or burned what down?
If you
Health.
burned all the healthcare stuff down, like if you take everything out, what are the non-negotiables for you and your team?
I still don't quite understand the
Yeah,
question. You
I don't
negotiables of
really
what we
either.
want?
Yeah. I don't thoroughly understand it. I guess that he's just trying to ask, what are when you look at the big picture of what it
Yeah,
is you're building, what
yeah.
are the non-negotiables for you? Like if everything fell away, what is the very core concept, the very foundation
Oh, the
of which,
foundation, it's the relationship with the providers.
right?
It's 100% the honoring and relationship with the provider, so they feel, and through actions from us and offerings and utility, that they feel honored. And that is the core of our business and what we do. Um, and that I mean, I step back, another thought. The questions we get a lot are like, we don't have enough therapists in the US. Like, you hear that all the time, right?
I do, yeah.
Nobody has the right to ask that question, period. You know why?
Why?
Because if I'm a regulatory body and I'm, say, the state of New York, do you know what they know about their provider market? 80% accuracy. They know if they're licensed or not licensed, and that is it. They don't know where they practice, who they practice with, what physical location they practice. Do they do it virtually, in person? Are they available? What networks they're involved with on the insurance side, where they got their education? They don't know anything, right? So it's like, if I have lawyers and I'm like, well, we don't have enough lawyers, right? Yeah, but you don't know what those lawyers are doing, or what, if they're practicing, or where they're practicing, right? So we don't know, we don't yet understand the actual data of the market. And how is that even possible? We're turning into 2026 with AI and blah, 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 blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. Like, we don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, it's a brilliant point. What do you think was the biggest milestone for you guys in 2025?
We started consistently acquiring and having providers join at 3 to 4 to 5,000 a month.
Wow.
And I think, and it became this flywheel. And I think it was that, it was that flywheel moment for us. And I, I think it started to realize where, and it was more emotional internally, where it just became like this, we don't have to work as hard as we have to bring this out. And I think the market is, and that scale, right? Because the market's starting to recognize the value of what we're doing. And then they're coming back in after they came for the first time to do other things. And then it was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, why do I have to go somewhere else? This is what's going on. And I don't think, I mean, I'm really excited for next year, um, because we're going to start to the promise of TPN. I mean, the ultimate promise is to improve outcomes, right? And that promise really comes about when you connect the patient to the clinician in this seamless way, and you do it clinically, right? And you're able to do it on a care alliance basis, and that's really going to elevate. Our team is growing, and I keep telling the team is like, I don't think we're prepared emotionally to what if we all the things that we say we
Yep.
are and believe, like if the reality of that, of how consequential this is. And we're really excited about that. And also, like, candidly, I'm a little afraid of what that looks, how that is, and how what that that action looks like, just candidly.
Yeah.
Um, we're getting a lot of attention, and which is nice, and um, um, but it's never forgot to us of, we worked really hard to figure out who our customer is. Um, and I'm glad we found out our customer is the one who doesn't pay us, which is the provider.
Yeah. I'm actually that kind of makes me happy to hear you speak so candidly, because I think what you guys are building is revolutional. I think that you have a real opportunity to bring value back to the people that need it the most in there. And I could understand that it's 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 dangerously beautiful to build
Yeah.
something and then see it start working in a way like, oh shit, here
Well,
we
that's one
go.
thing. Yeah, I mean, I've been, I'm getting. This is like, George. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, because we are getting way more candid about and
Good.
aggressive about who we are and what we are. We used to be
Yeah.
very quiet about,
Yeah, of
because we
course.
didn't want anybody stealing what we were doing, right? And because we thought we had. But to your point is, now we're like, oh, this is kind of working. Like, this stuff I've been saying, or we've
Yeah.
been saying, is starting to happen, and it's kind of one of those moments like, whoa, and that's happening a little bit, and it's exciting and scary all at the same time.
It is, and it's fascinating. I got one last question that comes in here, and it says, if a clinician listening wants to help replace the old system instead of just complaining, where should they jump in first with you guys?
Hopefully, it's quite intuitive when you come on TPN, and it depends where you're at. I mean, we have large practice groups that come on with, 200 providers that can just contract with us and contract all their 200 providers. Um, you know, oh, the journey always starts with continuing education generally.
Yeah.
And then, think of it like LinkedIn, connecting with other providers on there. Um, we'll, if you're licensed, we'll credential you. If there's an issue, we'll let you know and you can fix it. Um, um, so we're doing a very cool event. I put on LinkedIn, which I've never posted about an event before, but I did because I get a lot of these questions, and I'm passionate about this whole artificial intelligence piece, where
Yeah.
we have a very big stance where artificial intelligence has no place in the interaction with the patient, period. All of our care navigation is human interact. AI is not ready, even close, for prime time, but let alone not having a regulatory body on top of it for
Mm,
liability issues. But in terms of what we're hearing in the marketplace with young men, and
mm.
chat GBT and suicide stuff,
Yeah.
and it is scary. Illinois has done a wonderful job of taking a legal stance on it, and California is about to do the same. Um, but we're doing a 3-hour ethics AI training. Ethics is very obviously important for licensure, and that's happening next week, I think on the 29th in the afternoon. But that stuff's just really cool to start. We really want to be um, bringing forward the thought leaders in this marketplace of either what are the best practices, what are new practices, what are sharpening up of practices, what are the best thought processes, how do I handle taxes for this year, how do I build a great practice, all these toolboxes that you need. It's just going to ever improve even next year, where we'll be creating tracks, right? So I just graduated, got my MSW from Michigan, like I want to do here. I need a supervisor. I need to, like, let's build a package for you, right? And how do you become where you want to be? I mean, I always get surprised when people hear stories of young clinicians coming out and they just grab a supervisor because it's not what they want to do, but they need a supervisor. Like, that's nonsense, right? I mean, think about back to the physical market. Like, I don't go join this area of, ENT when I want to be a orthopedic surgeon. Like, no, I want to go train with an orthopedic surgeon. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, it's like a fast track to burnout all of a sudden, just getting involved in something you don't want to be part of.
The head of our sales, Sarah Duke, is a counselor, Cornell, NYU. She worked at a psych hospital in Brooklyn and burnt out. All these issues.
Yeah.
Supervisor not fitting what she wanted to do, the facility not listening to the staff on what their needs are. They're getting people in all the time. They had to check people out that needed to stay. It was like someone who's has debilitating mental health issues that are just need to be stabilized and managed. They're like, okay, it's time to check them out. Like, check them out to where? Check this. What are you talking about? Like, this isn't, this is a schizophrenic person with blah, blah, blah disorder. Like, how, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
So,
yeah, there's nowhere to go, but now there is, man. I really mean this when I say I'm grateful for not only what you're building, but your entire team out there. I love the way it's led by clinicians. And I love even more that it has the potential to bring about true solutions for the mental health care industry. As someone who's been affected in my life, and I have family members that have been affected by it, it really seems like a whole new sort of opportunity for everybody involved in it. And I want to say congratulations for doing it and having the courage to do it and coming out and speaking about it and providing opportunities for other people to be part of that solution. I think that that's for me is one of the most exciting parts, is you're providing opportunities for everyone to be part of the solution out there. So thank you for that.
I appreciate you saying that, George. It's one thing that wasn't fun about running this thing is making payroll for 2 years, barely, every week, not having the money and trying to, hopefully that's kind of a little bit in our rear view, but that, building a business is not, it is not an easy thing. And what's helpful? A lot of therapy. I had the fortunate, I sat in a dinner with Dick Schwartz, who Internal Family Systems, and we were chatting. He goes, I'm doing an offsite in Santa Cruz and I want you to come. And I wasn't really familiar with IFS at that point. And I was like, okay. And I told the team and I came back and they're like, what? Dick Schwartz? And you're going to do? And I was like, yeah. And that was unbelievable journey for me of healing and providing grace to myself of things that I still held on to. And it's still, IFS, if folks have not done it, and other modalities, but is a wonderful gift to give to yourself in terms of finding your own internal peace and grace for yourself and gratitude for life as whole. And those seem to be kind of the key factors in a life of quality, I've found.
Yeah, this opens up a whole nother avenue. Like, some of the most successful companies are people that started at the bottom and worked their way up. And when I hear you speak about going and doing the IFS, like, look, you've been through the therapy. You understand what it's like to build a business. You understand what it's like to try to keep the lights on, to try to make payroll out there. So it's like you've been through it on all different sides. I got to think that, and not only you, but the young lady that you mentioned that was in the psych, that was working in the psych department, and now she's over in sales. Like, it's refreshing to me to get to see people build things with individuals who have been all the way through the system. I think that, in my opinion, is what makes a system work effective and efficient.
Yeah, understanding what's not working or what didn't work. Feel that. Feel those moments, right?
Yeah. The real world experience out there.
Yeah.
Well, I walked you right up over here to this hour mark, but I want to kick it back to you just for a moment. Like, where can people find you? What do you have coming up again? Maybe you could give the details on what you have coming up again. And if someone is listening to this, they want to reach out and learn more, where do they go to do that?
Well, first, I mean, the whole journey, and I just say it. Thank you for this opportunity and the platform to talk about this, George. Super grateful. One thing to be thought of is, I think people are going to hear a lot about us next year. We've spent no money on marketing and we've done no PR. And January next month, that changes significantly. So we're excited about this, and this is kind of, we talked for a little bit when we connected, and I really enjoyed you, and I was like, all right, let's just kick this off here. So it's great to have this opportunity, but I think I'll be doing more of this. But in terms of, I mean, it's just in the bottom right on my screen, just TPN.health. Just start there. I mean, that's hopefully it's designed pretty clearly on how you engage and connect and where it goes. But next year, we will have millions and millions and millions of lives that are insured through us and payers through us, that those lives will be looking for behavioral health care and will be shepherding through the process. And we look to grow that and grow that and grow that. And this year was kind of the petri dish test for all of that. We started kind of midway through the year, and we've built the systems out and kind of handle scale. But next year, for the clinicians that are listening, take a chance on this process. And most of the things we hear from clinicians like, this sounds too good to be true. And if it's too good to be true, it's probably not. But I think in our case, it's almost the pendulum is swing, as you've been screwed for so long in a system that has not served you, that we're presenting, through technologies, a way to actually clean this up ethically and efficaciously and really bring change positively to the market. And I don't know what the unintended consequences are, the unknowns. Yeah. but we'll find out and go this journey. You'll find that we are, I think people always get shocked, like they'll say something and we'll go and change it, right? I mean, we are very receptive to feedback. And I think that might have started from me, because I don't know anything about, I've just listened to people about what's going on in clinical markets and stuff like that. So we build a lot around the needs of clinicians. So we'd love to hear from clinicians and what their needs are and what's going on.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were within the sound of my voice, if you're watching right now on the screen, you'll see TPN.health. There's also a QR code that you can scan. Go check it out. If you are someone who's listening, go down to the show notes and hit the links down there. Reach out to Trevor, reach out to the team. Trevor, hang on briefly afterwards. To everybody else within the sound of my voice that participated today, Juliet, Desiree, Dennis, who else is coming over? Desiree, Jesse, Monreal. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you have a beautiful day, a wonderful Christmas, and we'll catch you later this week. Have a beautiful day. Aloha.
Thank you.